Hey everybody, welcome to the week 3 recap episode of Tactical Crouch. That's right, 3 weeks into the Overwatch League season. Feels like just yesterday. It was just getting started. We were just kind of doing our thing, finishing up our power rankings, not even finishing up our power rankings. And now here we are. And 3 weeks in, a lot going on in the Overwatch League. I think we've done okay. I think anticipating kind of most of the teams and relative power rank. I think I'm still like in the top 15 or 20 in our pick'em league. Doing all right. Did pretty good this week. Didn't get NYXL Philly. I think that was the only one. I think I got the rest, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I switched London. I switched London over Washington last minute.
Oh, really?
Yep, last minute.
What a gamer.
I know. I did. If I could just find a betting site for esports in the United States, make so much money right now. We're doing good. Well, welcome to the episode. I'm KickedTripod, joined, of course, by Yiska and Volamel. Good to see you all. Don't forget all the usual things. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch, Twitter.com/tactical_crouch. See us Monday and Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time for the recap and preview shows. Other than that, let's talk about what's going on in the Overwatch League and competitive Overwatch. Big thank you to our patron producers, Battlecrab, Made, Pin, Lolshin, Charlie L, Audio Compass, and Pork Chop Sammy. You're the best. What a bunch of gems. Bunch of gems in that list right there.
Indeed.
Y'all are great.
Hearing some new names, because like at this point it's already like a tune. You know, like it sounds like one word when you read them, and then to see more people added to the back, I'm like,
yep.
Oh, we got someone new. Nice.
It's like playing a game of Simon, where every time it just adds another... It's another color or name to the end of it. So we used to do that to memorize decimals of pi.
Damn.
You go through 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4, and you could see who could go the farthest.
And how did you also take self-defense classes? You know, to fight the bullies off if you did that in school?
I almost made a dark joke. No, we did not. We did not. Not very helpful in the United States school system these days. But there it is. There's the dark joke. All right. Besides that, I can't believe it. That was my Yiska dark joke.
Okay, dude.
That was my Yiska inappropriate dark joke. I only get 1 per 78 episodes. So
also, plausible deniability in that joke, right?
Yes.
Very well framed. Chapeau.
Sure. Great. Awesome. What are we talking about? Oh, yeah, news. So a couple of things going on. The Overwatch League officially cancels week 5, 6, and 7. The match is scheduled for South Korea. We don't know when or where they're going to be rescheduled, how they're going to be played, any other details. We just know that in the interest of public safety, they're not happening.
Yep.
So, yep, that's happening.
You know, credit where credit's due again. You know, they're acting quickly. I know that this is a logistical nightmare, and we constantly like to on Blizzard. So, you know, again, credit where credit's due. You're acting quickly. Great job.
Yep.
Yes, but I'm sorry. I got to shit on them a little bit here.
Yeah.
I think theoretically, there are ways for us to build the Overwatch League schedule in a way, like before the season, in a way where this problem would have been significantly less severe. As in, for instance, last year we had 4 weeks of midseason, right? Imagine if we had those 4 weeks now, what we could do, whether we could plan,
Sure.
like how much time we would have, competitive integrity would suffer less. Also, like, okay, so then the producer is saying, well, then you're like kind of like measuring with money that, you know, when you don't have, because like TV deals and like dragging the season out for XYZ. Well, the thing is, dragging the season out and building that redundancy in your system, so like giving it a little bit more space,
Sure,
makes you more competitive in the market. Would have been, for instance, very possible that, or it is the case that the League of Legends leagues all have that same problem. Not to the same extent, because they are more localized and therefore they are inherently less fragile to these events than like a centralized big league is. Because now it's just like LCK is canceled, or like playing online.
Yeah.
The majority of LCS leagues are still operating, right? And I guess China is also on lockdown or whatever.
Yeah.
But still, like, that's an issue of our system where we are significantly more fragile to these events than the league system is, for instance, or the CSGO system is. Because CSGO can just say, okay, we'll just avoid China for 6 months. Bang. That's
it doesn't just put in. I mean, I think that like a percentage of teams in the Overwatch League, like the percentage of teams in the Overwatch League that are not playing at the moment, probably mimic a similar number to the number of top League of Legends teams not playing in LPL or LCK. I'm not even sure if LCK is canceled so much as they just don't have a live audience. I'm not sure.
Yeah. They play. Yeah.
So I think, again, the percentage of teams not playing is probably similar. So I don't know if League is the best example against that, but yeah, I think
they're not hurting the other entertainment products.
No, but there again, we still have matches being played, so it's almost like
the
same thing, kind of.
I mean, I
not
think
really,
still,
but
like if this is a make or break season, and if this actually ends up really hurting, and I guess we can talk about viewership, which is already
it's not great.
A little
what
rough.
was it? I didn't.
It's like 50, 60 maybe.
Okay.
50, 60K, yeah. And CDL was higher than us for a lot of that time.
But I'm pretty sure there's probably like a reason for that. Yeah, Rocket League being higher is pretty rough, but yeah.
Yep. It's definitely
I think by next year they're going to have teams have visas to at least participate elsewhere, just in case something like this happens, where like, oh, a venue isn't ready, or oh, a venue like for whatever reason like has issues, like you can reschedule within a timely fashion. I think the problem with this is that you can't just move it to, you know, China. You can't move it to Europe because you don't have visas ready for that stint yet because of this global phenomena that's happening right now. So,
you know, if we had stages and stage playoffs, you could use those stage playoff weekends for also makeup games.
Yeah, sure.
We used to, so I come from, nobody knows this on the show, I come from a snowy state called Minnesota, and we used to have built-in makeup days into our schedule that were off, but you expected that you'd actually have school that day because you'd have so many snow days depending on like how bad of a winter it was, where you would just plan on, okay, well, we're going to be there. And using, I really wish that they would use you could probably even use the homestand model for it and just go, you know what, these 3 homestands we're going to call makeup homestands, bring the teams out there. You know, but there, I think one of the biggest issues with that probably is just the limited practicing facilities, right? Like as far as flying people, everybody's got their visas, right? Like
they
getting
have visas
the teams
for specific places. I don't think everybody has their visas to go everywhere yet.
I mean, but I think presumably everyone's got it for the U.S., right?
I don't know.
So
because if they did, why don't they just move them here?
So everyone has to, right? Like which team doesn't play the majority of their games in the US? What?
Well, I mean, a lot of like all of February there was supposed to be
a
China.
Oh, you mean for that specific time frame?
Yeah, like teams could.
Don't you get it for like a year? I'm not sure.
I have not a clue. No clue.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's
that's a dumb argument. Like,
there's a good deal. I would imagine that there's a good deal of people that probably don't have their US visa and they can't just get them.
I don't know, like, I don't know, but maybe that's something that you need to build into like the things. Like everybody needs to have a visa for the entire year for the United States.
Yep.
Come on down to Blizzard Arena.
If that happens, if a venue isn't properly done, if a homestand isn't ready, we can just move you here. We can schedule in, bang, bang, bang. Maybe you're a week delayed. Doesn't matter. We're not seeing a team not play until week 11 like Shanghai, right? So it adding redundancy is good. It's tough to, manage a viral outbreak. So I give them a little bit of leeway.
More on the extreme, like,
yeah.
Like, I don't blame, I don't think I can blame anyone for not accounting for, well, what if you can't use an entire country or two countries for the better part of the season? So, anyways.
That's a fair shout, but then again, you got to expect the unexpected. That's how you build rigid
think within
systems.
reason, but yes, I agree. I think finding the line between we did prepare for it and this is a viral outbreak, I think finding that line is probably the hard part, right? But
yeah, but it's also like, I think it's a thing of scale where we don't see the obvious shortcomings. I think, for instance, it's very obvious to us that the Washington Justice now getting sick with 7 players is a big issue for a roster like this, right? Yeah. Equally, of course, it's a higher chance to get sick, but like to not be able to play at all, to have a sick list like this, is probably about the same risk of like something seriously happening, as in like it shuts down the entire league. What if a super volcano volcano breaks out, like the one in Iceland? Or nobody can fly internationally.
There's a military conflict, right? Like what then?
Same things, yeah. Like stuff like that. They are unforeseen things. You cannot plan for the specific instances, but you can plan for the eventualities. For the same reason, for instance, like if a lung is not working that perfectly, you still have that second lung. That's how evolution built us, in order to be resistant to certain, issues. There's a kidney not working well. Okay, we can live with one, right? And these twin, this is very similar. Just to have like, you don't have to like perform prime time, but like, and there's of course still, even if you build redundancy into this, if this actually gets like becomes like a huge thing and the world has to now care about this virus, of course, then very different case. Also totally agree that we need to take this super seriously. Yeah. I'm just thinking like, I have to disclose, like I'm a fan of breaks. It revitalizes me as a viewer. I think it revitalizes the players, the meta itself. People have more creative takes. The quality or the mental health aspect is a lot easier to manage that way. And also these instances where something goes seriously wrong, and now we don't have any breaks for whatever reason. I assume it's for financial reasons or organizational reasons or sponsorship reasons, and we feel it immediately.
Yeah, that's true. How many matches were there supposed to be this weekend?
Supposed to be without cancellation?
Yeah, without cancellation, 10, 12.
Twice as many, yeah.
Yeah, there just would be another homestand.
Yeah, so
with like, as many matches, yeah.
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 Till 12 matches in total.
Could you imagine? Like, it was like, I loved this whole weekend. I just sat on WoW, ran my auctions, ran some dungeons, and watched Overwatch League, and it was great. Just 6 hours on Saturday, 6 hours on Sunday as a content creator for Overwatch League. But
we got it easy right now.
Holy cow. That's going to be, these recap shows are going to be something else. Like, did you watch?
Yeah.
March was going to be rough, especially early March, where we had like the extra Soul homestand where people were going to try to make up games that obviously is now canceled. Yeah. I was already looking at that. Like I have to be up by 1 a.m. I have to be up for 6 hours, and then I have to sleep, and then I have to get up at
Yep. Anyways,
maybe you just need to delay the season by a lot. If that's maybe possible with the contracts in place.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Strap in. But anyways, matches or weeks 5, 6, and 7 won't be played in South Korea as planned, and we will get more news about what's going on there. There's also a developer update that just dropped. We're not going to discuss it in this show. I think it would be great for like a little one-off episode that we can do. Sure. Once it actually gets out there, we can play with it a little bit. Maybe we can do a little queuing, can see kind of just the overall reactions. But in short, Jeff Kaplan, just literally minutes before the show went live, posted a developer update about a 3 DPS, 2 support, 1 tank patch that's going live for the experimental card. With a ton of asterisks, with a ton of relax, don't panic, we're just trying it out. It's heavily contested internally as well, and we figured, hey, people wanted to try and test these things out. We talked about how the public test realms aren't super effective because not enough people play them. Now you get it in the live client, on PC, and on console, and we'll see. So stay tuned for that and definitely go watch that developer update. Pretty interesting. But let's talk about last week's matches. The first one, the match of the week, did not disappoint. The New York Excelsior fall to the Philadelphia Fusion 3-1. Joe, you called this one.
I did.
You did. Where did Philly shine? And was it what you expected?
I think, I would. I'd say Philly looked as strong as I expected them to look. I was kind of disappointed that New York didn't come out as colorful as I think they could have. I expected this to go a lot of the same way that Toronto Philly did. Before the show, I was kind of talking about that with Yiska. A lot of dive from Toronto. I like that a lot. I expected New York to do the same. New York is proactive, but they're a little sloppy. Like they're still trying to like iron out exactly who are you supposed to be playing. You know, they were starting with Nene, now they're playing with Sabiolbi. Why is that? It's not
still no libero.
Yeah, no libero. I've got to assume it's somebody's sick somewhere, and it's just not going as well as they want it to. Maybe they've been scrimming with who are you because of it. I don't know. But yeah, no, New York just kind of stuck to their one thing, and they did that, and it was bad. And Philly is probably one of the best at the standard composition at the moment. They're probably one of the best, like May McCree. Yeah, like they're insanely good at May McCree. They're good at they're almost not. They're not even really that aggressive. Like if you watch their games, they're kind of just drawing a line and saying, okay, once you step over that line, we're gonna pull the trigger. You're gonna die. They're not just leaping forward. And that's something you see with New York a lot, is they're just kind of like engaging to engage. Who are you places a wall? There's always like a crack around it, a crack behind. Like there's always some way to slip in. We can criticize Ivy in this match, or in a later match in particular where he actually did not play very well, but his walls are always on point.
Yeah.
And I think, again, like you're not going to beat them in the clutch. You're not going to beat them in the scramble. You're not going to beat them like in the neutral. This team's actually also disgusting.
Like it's really seldom the case that so should we use his name? Whatever. We'll use his name. We used it for whatever. But like when there's a wall and the other May places a wall and is caught in that with their own Rhine. So the mechanics is the opponent May puts the wall down, and then the Reinhardt, hopefully with his May, is caught behind that. So his May can then wall off their Reinhardt and get a preferential or a better
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I will
just call it no man's land.
So in the goosh, in that zone.
I need to end this show, I think.
In the goosh.
All right. See you guys next week. We're done.
They are very strong, and Ivy's basically never not getting there. Like, I feel like they are always like fighting that well. Also, of course, these blocks, so that zone just like takes place at different parts of architecture on the map. So,
Yes.
But depending on that, I feel like Sado and Ivy improvise very quickly and solve those solutions effectively very often, and really seldom die on their own that way. Also because maybe like Alarm finds like cracks or is like safe peeking around the corner eventually, or it's just very quick to it or whatever, or topping them off, seeing like, okay, my tank gotta be full here. I haven't looked at the specifics. What I know is in the goosh, they are not dying.
Yep.
So we're making that a word now.
They can
over.
swap between being like predator animals and being prey animals. The second like Sado like is in danger, like his ears just perk up and he's just jumping around, like blocking everything, like floating around at double-digit HP, and then Alarm can finally get to him and heal him up. It's disgusting. Like the man doesn't die. Poco doesn't die. Sado doesn't die.
Yeah.
Ivy doesn't die. Like it. How do you kill this team? Oh, you get 2 kills? Okay, Carpe answers with 3. Overtime happens, Carpe gets a 10% damage buff. They scramble, okay, you're fighting against one of the best mechanical teams in the league. What do?
Yeah.
You try to do something different to get them off their game, to try and mitigate that as much as possible. And that's why I have to give the nod to Toronto here. They did a good job at trying to mitigate that. It was a little sloppy in the end.
We're going to talk about it.
We won't get on that tangent, but nod to them. But New York, I needed more.
So
I needed more Nene.
So that's kind of the next question. Do you think not seeing Nene or Libero again contributed to the loss here? I mean, I think Libero we're still just kind of like, huh?
Yeah. He's got to be sick. Like, he's just got to be ill.
Sick. I don't think could it be, do you think there could be anything internally going on, or do you think it's...
Okay, so there's something internally going on. The player that then plays is Who Are You? I mean, talk about ironic. If that's the case,
okay,
that would be hilarious.
I don't know a lot about Libero's like how good of a teammate Libero is. I always just assume.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does really. It seems like,
but we know.
Never heard in all those years that was never.
But we know Who Are You though.
We do.
You know, past history, getting benched, still, you know, his team goes on to win, and I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's where it's just like, I don't know. It's weird.
Like, this is where I get into my like over analysis brain, where I'm like, maybe IMT, this vast knowledge of neuroscience is just like, okay, this guy's frontal lobe got to develop early in the season. So, but by doing that, we do that by putting like him in, so he learns that he's part of the group, and his hormone level. I'm like, okay, dude, like, why are you playing Who Are You? I just want wins now, dude. Like, who knows what happens? Just play your best team always, and I think that's probably the long-term play. Of course, planned for the long haul. You can also incorporate many members. I feel like, especially against a direct title contender, not playing your best lineup is kind of like, yeah. I mean, let's be honest, that team is not going to miss playoffs, so you can do whatever you want right now. But
if they keep going like this, there's a good chance they might.
Yeah.
Not likely, but there's a chance, and that's not NYXL. That's not NYXL's MO.
So I do kind of have a follow-up question then. Do you think people are overreacting to Who Are You's May not being very good?
No, it's not good. And I think people are starting to really get a feel for they're being aggressive, which is good, but then there's no follow-up. You're not getting much of an advantage with that aggression. Jonak can play wings, that's great. but their walls are just poor. He's not doing a ton of damage. Like each match, he statistically isn't really performing all that well. Again, a bit of a golfer. Plays, is about 30 above par when it comes to alting. So granted, Ivy on the other hand, we'll get to him because I have a bone to pick with Mr. Golf himself this week. The Tiger Woods of the Overwatch League. Just as can we get better at May, please, guys? Come on, please. One time. One time. No more disc golf.
So on the flip side, though, Sato looking pretty good. Coming into
the
his
year
own
of
here.
Sato. It's been prophesized on this podcast. It's coming to fruition.
We did. I think all three of us said, this is going to be his year. Don't underestimate him based off of, and I think Christopher really solidified that on the show as well. As like, yep, you saw Sato have 1 or 2 bad games on Reinhardt. People blew that out of proportion. He's a great tank. We've got an even better supporting staff around him. Carpe literally just wants to play with Sato. And I think you're starting to see why here. Are you buying more Sato stocks?
Yeah. I'm buying anybody that's on Philly stocks. This team's nuts. They're number 2 on my power rankings for a reason. This team's sick. Will that change, in the coming weeks? Who knows? Hero pools could work. It could just completely miss the bill. But even with hero pools, I think they have a very deep roster as well. I don't see Sato just like pooping out on Winston.
Yep.
Or, an Orisa or Sigma for that matter, if that ever becomes, the meta. This team's disgusting. Sato in general looks very, very sick. No.
I think they have enough off tank talent who could easily play ball, play Orisa, and
Coco's playing Orisa right
Sigma.
now. You could just move him to main tank, as weird as that might seem. But again, these are tank players, not just he's the flexing. No. Fuck that. He's a tank.
Missed the button.
Whatever. There was an attempt made.
You said it after you said the word after the bleep.
Comedic effect.
Fair enough. I mean, it was funny, especially when I called it out. That's what made the joke fun. No. Okay. Fair enough. Sato's looking great. This definitely seems, how he kind of said this is kind of Washington's best meta that they could hope for.
Yeah.
There's also kind of a point that feels like that for Philly, but with actually really good players.
Is there a best meta for them? I mean, this meta is good for them, but I don't know that I could find a bad meta for them.
That's fair. That's definitely not trying to say, but you know what I'm saying? More like that. Like when you look at each individual player, you're like, yep, they're playing heroes you want to see them on. Yep, they're playing heroes you want to see them on.
Yeah. But they're just so every player on this roster is mega diverse. Poco's showing diversity. Again, that was a big narrative point that I pulled up a lot, talking about space. And I'm sure Poco might have been mentioned that we've just really only seen them on Diva. Can they play anything else? Yeah, as Arisa's, it's fine. It does well. Sato, known for Monkey, wasn't super great on Ryan last year, is absolutely looking like a stud. Ivy looks, he had 1 bad game so far. We'll see what happens. But yeah, everybody on this team just has a
even
hero
then,
ocean.
We're gonna talk about Fusion versus Defiant later, but if I'm the Fusion, I'm not preparing too much for the Defiant, I don't think.
No.
And I think that they're one of the harder teams to prepare for as well.
Yes.
So
they're top of the pack right now.
Last but not least, I do want to ask you a little bit about Alarm and Funny Astro, the support line. We haven't really talked about supports a whole lot in the first 3 weeks of game. But Alarm and Funny Astro, how have they been, playing, and how do you think they held up against NYXL?
As good as you can. A rookie going against Jonak, you don't expect them to do good, but this is not any rookie. This is the player to change the status quo, the player to kind of solidify an Elite 4 flex supports I don't even know if that's true at this point. We'll get to somebody else who might actually.
We might have 5 or 6.
We might have. It's disgusting how many
shit.
ridiculous flex supports.
It's the golden flex support era.
It really is.
And Alarm is the golden child. Like that's just how it is.
He's showing that you can compete numbers wise with some of the biggest names that people.
He played across the Jonak in this match.
Yeah,
right. Who you would probably have to argue is one of. I mean, he's a former MVP, so you can't not put him in the best flex support in the world category.
Definitely,
and
you can't not. Totally
was not
tit
Jonak.
for tat.
Yep.
Punch for punch.
Was not Jonak.
There was.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. It's definitely not to the fault of Jonak in particular. I think it's just the team in general. Sure. Just like it's not just who are you, even though he is underperforming. It's not just Mono being overly aggressive. It's communication, it's teamwork, it's team synergy, it's this new style. They just need to figure it out. It needs to just get ironed out. They just need to grind it out.
Yep.
But Philly, Funny Astro looks like an absolute monster. Like the amount of. Not environmental picks, but he just finds picks. Call him a Reddit Lucio all you want, but if he can just get kills and just like be able, if you can carry from main support, like what?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like you can influence the fights that like without environmental kills. Again, like go back and watch Temple.
He's just fragging, yeah.
He just gets kills.
Yep.
He's just fragging.
How's this kid do it? They can carry from every single position. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yep. Paris kind of has the same thing going on with FD God there. So,
Yep.
It's,
weirdly enough, Houston, Jexay looks like the best player on that damn team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think I would argue that.
Almost deadlifting on Lucio is
what?
75%. It's just unheard of, dude.
Because it's sure not Meko. It's sure not Muma.
Yeah.
It's not the DPS.
No, it's Jax is definitely the best player. Player card.
Easily the best player.
Yeah.
But again, we'll get to them.
Well, we will, and let's go to them next. Boston Uprising defeat the Houston Outlaws 3-2. Battle of the bottom.
Map 7
did not disappoint. I think it was one of the most exciting matches that we've had. And somebody said something really interesting. I can't remember if it was on Twitter or in Twitch chat before the show. But bad Overwatch can still be really fun to play or to watch.
Oh yeah.
It can be a ton of fun to watch. It's not like listening to you guys analyze it is like, oh my God, everybody's bad. But watching it is really fun. You got two draws. We had two draws. We went 7 maps, very close maps generally, back and forth. And we also got to see Jerry.
Yes.
And I think the desk and casters made enough of a spectacle out of Jerry and his performance. Are you on a Jerry high as well?
I think he had a good debut. I'm interested to see how consistent he can be. I will say that this is the best debut you can have to point towards consistency because, again, most teams aren't preparing for 7 maps, right? So to see a player to consistently perform very well on all 7 maps, that's like some championship round type stuff where he's got a gas tank on him. Like he can go the distance and still perform. I think that definitely lends itself, but I still want to see him, show up on when do they play next? Let's see. Sometime in March. I want to see him show up there and still be able to perform week on, week out. So far, so good. And yes, the desk just, could not praise him enough because, his little cheeks, I get it. But can we talk about that flex support? Yunbong is ridiculous. Like, what? Muma was perma slept. He was perma. Like, I was actually going to get so mad if they didn't give him player of the match. Like, he's too good. This team, like, somebody save him. Like, loss for words on how strong of a pickup that was, and they always seem to find him. Like there's few constants in the Overwatch League. One of them may be that Houston just kind of always is bad, but one of them also is that Boston always finds good flex support. So hats off to who's ever picking that out.
That's fair. Yeah, coming alive for sure. What do you? Can you guys? So there's, I think one of the. What's the right word? I think one of the most controversial parts about the Houston Outlaws so far is the carousel of flex supports going on. You've got Jexa playing every map,
Yeah,
and then you've got Raucus and Repel seemingly randomly. I don't believe it's random. I feel like I know it's not random, but I don't understand the method to the madness. Here, do you think that the rotation is hurting Houston right now?
I don't think it's as big of a deal as like the desk keeps bringing up. I think they target it a lot because it doesn't seem to have like an even like remotely obvious reason as to why. There's obviously a reason. Dreams, obviously been interviewed by Sideshow and said like there is a stylistic difference on exactly when and where they play them. It might not just be blatantly obvious, but there's a reason why. I do think that this team is just like massively underperforming. Movement looks horrible. Echo does not look good at all. Even with like the flex support rotation, like they don't seem to really have like a giant impact. Like this team's just on the downswing. Like they started at the bottom, so hopefully it can only get better, but it's been rough. It's been rough. I think that again, when we talk about like their Brig Lucio style, they're not being proactive. And again, yeah, it was pointed out early, like, oh, we have to just engage. But it's like, okay, but like if you're not going to engage and you're engaging into a team that, again, to Florida's point last week or 2 weeks ago, they're kind of built to get engaged into. So it's like, is it a one-dimensional problem? Is it that we don't have any other looks? I don't know. It's hard to tell with what's going wrong with Houston. It's a lot of just individual, just nobody's playing well. And the only person that's playing well is probably Jexa.
Right. And they have been kind of riddled with illnesses and things like that. Sure. So it definitely is not the start that they wanted. Any optimism for Houston at this point?
Well, they get to practice a lot next week, right? It's their homestand, right?
Yep, they're back in Houston next week for their homestand.
Hopefully they won't be all deathly ill by that point. Again, like Hydration wasn't playing because he just didn't even fly to DC. He was so sick. So he might not even be recovered at that point. But again, I think it's probably enough time to get everybody at least at about 80% health. And we might finally see what Houston actually kind of looks like.
And there's a ton of sick players, by the way. Like, it's not particularly like, I think Bernard was sick. Like, of course, Washington, like we saw the Corey pictures. Yeah. Stratus was sick. Like all of them were sick. That's just going around. And
wash your hands, kids.
Yeah. Also, like, you were playing at these PCs, and I suppose they don't sanitize the tables necessarily or the headsets.
I would imagine they do, but I don't know.
I thought they had their own headsets.
Did they?
I thought they switch out all the peripherals. So keyboards, mice, mouse pads, headsets.
I'm not sure about headsets. I think the headsets
that's the one I'm
like
least confident in.
Yes. Yeah. That rest definitely.
I know that they're
the
same ones, but I like in the sense that people aren't using different like branded headsets. Like I'm using my Logitech ones. They're all using the same.
The weird like helicopter.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, honestly, like I as a professional player, I just have a hand sanitizer in my pocket at all times. Like
even with that, you're bound to get sick though. With all the traveling you're doing,
your immune system.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like airbound shit, but still, you can do things to minimize.
Totally. course, and they should. Some people do. Some people could care less, and then they get sick, and obviously you underperform. But again, I think it goes back to what we were talking about, in the preseason. You have to kind of, if this is going to work and we want to travel, you kind of have to prepare for it. You have to have contingency plans. And Houston has a roster that's pretty deep. We saw Dante. That's a start. But it's something that, again, we talked about it, I think, in the recap last week. It's like, okay, Washington, you have 8 players? One of them isn't even here. What happens when Corey's sick? Do you have anybody? You don't even have a contenders team. You don't even have a 2-way player to pull up. It's not just Washington, but it's a team that has gone out and said, oh, we like playing with 8 players. It's like, you do now. Yeah. But when somebody gets ill and has to perform in game 7, it's rough.
Yeah, it is. Sarah in chat says Captain Planet said they switch out all the headsets and sanitize them, and that it was a lesson learned from a league-wide illness issue that happened in 2018.
Okay, that's nice.
So
that should happen.
I don't know if it's like if they're just like swapping between 2 sets and like sanitizing, or if players have their own, but presumably they have.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
let's also be serious. Most of them probably get sick. Like they sit together sometimes in the green room, or
they're
like
traveling all around. You're going to conventions. There's a reason why so many streamers don't like going to conventions. It's because you get like the con plague is a thing.
Con plague is real.
Is a thing, and these are also players who, like, without like stereotyping, the whole thing is like they're typically not the most outgoing, spend a bunch of time outside at home because they spend so many hours just grinding anyways. So it's not like they're strengthening their immune systems that way, if that makes sense. So
not really.
Like it's not really a super conducive environment for people who, like, for me, I'm probably super immunocompromised working from home and having my gym downstairs. Like I drive once every month. And, like that's just the nature of how it is. You start throwing me in a bunch of airplanes and convention halls, like probably going to get pretty sick. So,
but it's something that, again, you're going to just see, you're going to inexplicably see somebody underperform. You're just going to see a team just completely nosedive. Why? Because they're ill. How long does that last? How long can they recover? It depends on how long they have to stay in that homestand, and they can't go home to get the medication and the help they need because they might be in a foreign country. It's tough to say. So again, this is going to happen. It's just so happens it starts with Houston, along with everything else on top of it. Missing bags, getting kicked out of their housing system at the moment. Like that's some cursed stuff.
Not what they were hoping. And
no.
But at the end of the day, like other teams are having massive issues with that as well. True. They are sick as well, and they still look like elite teams. For some,
definitely, some.
So, like,
that's what happens when you have a middle pack team, and everything goes wrong. You're gonna look like the 20th best team. Is it fair?
I'm still holding out a little hope for Houston yet. I say in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Over the next 3 to 4 games, if we don't see some light, that's where I start panicking.
That's the key. I need to see I need life. I need something to go, hey, okay, that was a good map. Like that was decisive. You might lose the series, but I need something to grab hold of, because if not, we're running out of excuses.
I mean, we know like hero pools are coming in. Maybe that's the change that they need.
Possibly.
To just get off these hit scan picks.
It could be.
I mean, 100%. It's very possible.
There's very few people who I feel understand the game as far as like on a hero level and how like heroes impact things in a way that Dream does. So I've got a ton of faith there as well, and I'll double down on that all day long. Also worth noting, and this is kind of a side tangent, but John Spector did clarify a little bit about how hero pools are going to work. So we'll just digress to that for a second. And so in a post on Reddit, John Spector clarified to say that hero pools will be a random drawing for each role among eligible heroes based on play rate data from week 3, the matches we saw this weekend, and week 4 next week in Houston. So all the damage heroes with significant playtime go into a pool, and then the desk will randomly pick 2 of them. For supports and tanks, it's the same, except they only pick 1. So it's going to be on the desk for Watchpoint, which we kind of hoped it was going to be. We talked about it when it was
might as well make content out of it.
Yep. Announced. Also, he clarified heroes with greater than or equal to a 10% play rate are what will be eligible to be banned or to be out of the hero pool. So as an illustration, using week 2 match data, the actual hero pool for week 5 is based on week 3 and 4. The heroes that exceeded that threshold in week 2 were Ryan, Orisa, Diva for tanks, May, McCree, Widow, Reaper for damage, and Lucio, Ana, Baptiste, and Moira, and Brig for support. So you have a choice of 1 of 3 tanks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 of 4 damage dealers, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 of 5 supports. And totally random from there. It's I'm surprised that the play rate data was so low. And 10% feels like a pretty low.
Yes, I think that over the course of the season, that'll probably change. 10% is probably going to be pretty normal across. Like, if things do open up like they should, and we're also not accounting for the different scrim bubble that's going on in Asia. Like Sombra could have easily broken into the DPS pool. Hanzo easily could have broken into the DPS pool. I think it also comes down to who's playing. Vancouver looks like they want to play a ton of dive, and we've seen Vancouver play week 1, but because they've missed out on week 3 and 4, they kind of aren't factored into that pool at all. So I still don't think this will do what people want it to. If anything, it stifles. It could stifle. It could fix. At that point, why have it? It's really a dice roll.
I'm a little skeptical. I'm worried that this isn't going to target the meta as much as they said, unless like you get that really lucky roll. Like if Lucio happens to be 1 of the 5, so you have a 20% chance of getting Lucio out. Yes, you've really like targeted a super highly used hero. But if Brig, sure, some teams are running.
Oh darn!
Brig,
Florida
Lucio
gets
Brig, okay, we'll swap that out, and like I don't think a whole lot changes.
No, so, if anything, it's just like it just kind of poo-poos on one team that's using it and that's being interesting. To Yiska's point, if Chengdu played 1 through 5 and played Wrecking Ball 1 through 5, and they themselves put Wrecking Ball in the top 10% of tanks played, and they just get banned. Cool, I guess. That's sweet.
And it's a very special thing of circumstances that happens. Like it's hard, right? Like if you walk through it logically, right?
Yeah.
So Chengdu has 4 matches in 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
It would need to be 2 weeks where there's less matches. So the Chengdu matches matter more.
Yep.
Then, like, let's say that's okay. Usually they're 12 matches, right? If 4 of them are Chengdu matches, then that is one third, right, of the matches are 24 matches, 1/8, right? So then divided by 2, that's 1/16. That is less than 10%. So
Sure.
It definitely needs to have less, either less games. So there's only 10 games, and then you double it, and then it comes out roughly. And Chengdu has to play very long series, which Chengdu usually does. Or another team needs to play some ball here and there as well for a map or whatever, and then put it over the top that way. Generally, at first I was like, 10% is way too low. Thinking about it, what would happen, for instance, is if the unlikely scenario occurs that you have 2 unique teams that are playing like cool comms, and their focal points is like ball, but they're playing an entirely different style. Like one of them is like playing dive, and then the other is like
some
doing weird flank stuff.
Sure.
Then if both of them play ball, that is 10%, and they could be specifically banned out. And I'm not sure that is really the attractive thing for the system, because we want these two teams to have these
we want
cool strategies. So
again, it comes back to that point. When you have travel, you get diversity.
Yeah.
Like I don't like, okay, we ban Widowmaker. Okay, a couple maps get less interesting. Sweet. Is that what we want? I don't think so. You ban Reinhardt. Again, that's the snake eyes here. You remove Reinhardt, things get real wonky. If that's what we're looking for, and that's the system's goal, just remove Reinhardt. Just ban him.
Yeah.
Reinhardt's banned. Now what?
And I honestly, I just think that aggressive balancing is enough. I've said it before.
Yeah.
I've said it again. Just aggressively balance it.
I think what we... Okay. Just lie, Blizzard. Don't make it random.
No,
just have someone just say, Slideshow, sit down for an hour, figure it out logically, what produces the best games, and then we have fucking David Blaine pulling out these balls, and it's May. Oh, how could it be?
Oh.
So
every ball's May. Whoa.
Stuff like this. Just do it like that, dude. Just making it with some sense behind it, just to force that diversity if you want. Okay, then do it.
Yeah. Yep. Imagine how hero pools will change if we end up getting 2-3-1. Well, we're gonna
get real weird.
We're gonna theory craft that some other time.
3-2-1 in the season. I'm telling you now. If they introduce that in the season, dude,
If it goes well on the experimental card, what he's saying is if it goes well on the experimental card and we just get a new iteration of roll queue in the middle of a season, we're gonna have another wine discussion.
November, the earliest, or like Overwatch 2, like one of those. Don't make it in the season, please, dude. How are you going to ban out like a career path, dude? Like, you're just sitting down like, yo, off tanks.
That's why you gotta be
kind of done, dude.
You just gotta you have to develop more hydrations. That's what you gotta do.
No way. That's
like, how about you just play 3 different roles across like 12 heroes? Be a real Renaissance person. Okay,
and it's wild. Yeah, go ahead.
This is a recap show. We gotta keep going through. We're diverging a little bit here, and we want to talk about the Paris Eternal versus the Washington Justice, because this is one where the betting odds at least, were in the favor of the Washington Justice, but the Paris Eternal won 3-1, which is about what we called here on the show. And Yiska, maybe let's take this one to you. How do you think the Eternal shut down Corey and the Justice? Because it really looked like that. Just shutting down Corey seemed to...
I have to confess I haven't caught up on all the maps, which I'm going to do tomorrow. Right.
I skipped on Houston.
I just fell asleep. It was the day where there was already a large delay, right? Like in the match, right? Wasn't it? I forgot.
Yeah, because it was right after the toilet bowl.
Yeah, but previously I had already heard that Paris is just a transformed team with Hanbin, and that playing D.Va is actually their intention. And they had been playing a little bit with the second main tank. I think that was said, or mostly in the press conference, I think, that I saw somewhere. But
I think 9K also mentioned it.
Yes. Oh, okay. That was
mentioned it as well.
Yes. And yeah, it makes sense to me that I'm super surprised, and it's once again comes down to like great coaching. Nico looks nuts. I honestly don't mind the members that are supposedly, or that looked weak. Like, okay, yes, you're probably looking better because you have great teammates around you now, but you're also not a big liability. What are the upcoming matches for Paris? Because I want to see them tested against teams.
Paris plays Atlanta March 1st next week. Next week Sunday.
That might be a little bit of a too tall task, but maybe.
That's a good like ceiling litmus test where it's like, okay, this we project this team to be very, very good. If Paris can at least take some maps, look competitive, pull a Toronto versus Fusion.
Yeah,
I think we've got a good team on our hands.
Yeah. I mean, and they've played strong. Like they've been, I would say they've had consistent performances, even in their loss in week 1. Who I forgot. London.
No, they beat London. They lost to Toronto.
Yeah, they lost to Toronto. Even in their loss there, they looked strong. They looked good. They looked better than we thought they would. There was a lot of bright spots that we could talk about on the show. And yeah, I mean, I think I'm really excited. I'm actually really excited for this team overall. I think the Eternal are really exciting. I'm really nervous for Washington Justice.
Yeah, bad team.
I don't know, man. I mean, we've talked about it specifically. They appear to be very one-dimensional. You'll notice, and we're going to talk about it at London Spitfire versus Justice later on. But it was literally, it was a series that Washington Justice won, had in the bag, and one player made one shot and caused it all to go downhill. So we're going to talk about it, but it's I'm concerned, and I don't think the Washington Justice look bad. They don't. They just
they do.
I don't think they look bad. I think they're really fun to watch. They're too easy to shut down. I guess that's kind of a definition of making it look bad, huh?
I would say that's bad.
Okay.
But I will say, I think they're trying to add another threat in Tuba. You're seeing him a lot on control. Things do kind of get a little scrimmy. They can force a little bit of the brawl, not the composition, but they're forcing dive. They're forcing teams to kind of play towards their tempo, which looks great. Problem is, it's tough to do that on some of these other maps. Unfortunately, they've only been able to play these other maps. And plus, Tuba's all like really not that strong compared to Corey, who's like hard carrying games. And then, we'll get to London, but yeah, one-dimensional, fits the bill. They really just kind of biff everything. Aim God looks okay. Arc looks fine, other than him beating when he's dying off maps twice.
Yeah. Okay.
It's unfortunate, but
yeah,
it's rough. Yeah. Not a great team.
NYXL defeat Houston Outlaws 3-0. Next, Toronto Defiant barely take Philadelphia Fusion to match to map 5 and fall narrowly 3-2. A near reverse sweep, almost the first one of the whole season. Toronto Defiant fall short. I don't think we expected it to be this close. Joe, in your mind, what made this one close? Was it just a mismatch? Do you think that the Fusion maybe weren't very prepared for Toronto because they played NYXL earlier?
I think that played a little bit into
Toronto's
it.
Toronto's only played one match so far.
Yes, I think that was probably most of it. Yeah. I would say that like Toronto has a lot of tricks in the bag. One of those tricks is that they will shift gears and just play dive on maps that allow it. Something that I wanted New York to do. Sadly, they didn't. Toronto did, and they forced the tempo. They forced Philly to actually make swaps and be kind of productive in how they're making, how they're building their compositions to fight this team. They're not being able to play the same May McCree stuff over and over and over. I will say I think Toronto probably could have played better, especially on tempo. They did engage in some areas they wanted to. There was some sloppiness, but there again, all in all, I think that they took control of the matches post half and looked very, very convincing. I think they kind of led with that momentum into Nepal and played it on maps maybe they shouldn't have. And again, you're playing against top 3 team in the league at the moment. it's tough to beat them. So I don't think that's a loss. I think this is a giant victory for Toronto. Even though on paper it's a loss, this is a victory for them.
Yeah.
Because this shows that we can play the May Reaper, even though it's a little weird. We can play dive. We can play, you don't know what to expect from us. We can play a lot of different things. We have a very open style. We're not great at any of them just yet. But if we feel like we're not great in the mirror, okay, we can default to dive. We can default to this. We can go, Doomfist here.
Yeah, really.
They have a very open game. They have a very open floor plan. And Philly, again, has only really been able to play the mirrors. Nobody's really tested them on other compositions. They had answers. It didn't, wasn't as strong as I would have hoped. But yeah, I think this is how you beat these teams. And Toronto's really starting to figure that out. I hope everybody else figures that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think Beast is holding on here?
It's fine.
Yeah, I think there's not really an issue with him. Like, I think a lot of people had concerns their front line.
Yep.
I think
rightfully
especially
so, fair.
Sure. Yeah. I think, for instance, Nevix played great. Especially like the later half of the series against Toronto, Philly. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for this team. I hope they can ride this wave. There's always this feeling of like, what if the honeymoon phase is over? Like, what if that happens? The thing is, I feel like that's a team that will benefit from hero pools even, because they're already pretty experimental. They seem to be liking to experiment as well. Like, they just enjoy like showing the breadth of their hero pools. Yeah, and then also, of course, it's a trap game. Like, let's not get this wrong, right? Like, Philly probably prepared a lot for NYXL, and then they prepared, of course, also for the Toronto Defiance, but maybe not as much. And Toronto, identifying that, brought their entire repertoire of strategies to them, like the thing that I wanted to see. And it's kind of exciting to see that teams are having already success with these off-meta comps. And yeah, I think especially like one of those times we gotta sit down and talk a little bit about Shofo's career. Of course, like last year we had a little bit of a poop fest on him when it was about the K and him and star playerdom, whatever. Like, his career is one of the most impressive in Overwatch history.
Yep.
And in this particular match against Carpe, he didn't look like the worst player for much of it, which is nuts. Like, he had sweet aim.
King's Row in particular.
Yes, he was just taking people's heads off, and that's encouraging. And as long as he can, and I think he does, lead this team to a large degree and can remain a positive influence on that team, I think they'll likely make upper play-ins and maybe even slip in. It could have the opportunity to slip in playoffs. I don't think they will, because there's definitely a bunch of Asian teams we've yet to see, and including Atlanta. But like, they are looking like 8-11 right now.
Yeah, they're definitely. They seem like a safe pick for a play-in team, and they're a team that can actually challenge a top 6 team, which is pretty exciting. They might not be as consistent across week to week, and I think the better, playoff teams are probably going to beat them out on most days, but could make for a really exciting team once you get to playoffs, once you get to a mid-season tournament.
Yep.
And see them play when, it's a best of 3 where there's high stakes. Seeing those players could be really exciting. So
yeah,
pretty exciting overall. I wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of choices to play and swap between Logix and Surefour, but we're not going to do it right now in interest of time. But it's something that I continue to monitor and see how they're using them, and want to chat with you guys about it sometime, just not right now, because I want to talk about the London Spitfire versus the Washington Justice. This was the first sweep of season 3, and it wasn't probably the one we expected. Washington Justice had one of the most decisive implosions we have seen in the Overwatch League. What happened? So they go up 2-0 pretty easily, looking pretty bad. London's giving us a completely different look with Shui and Cleston over Babel and Bernard, who I would say were probably two of the week 1 bright spots. And they pull it all out and end up pulling off the reverse sweep in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Cleston needs an Astroglide sponsorship. You can't just raw dog Corey like that every engage. He was in that man's behind every fight. Go back and watch how often Dave is just like, you can see like a little silhouette just like 100 meters that way, just like hiding in a flank, just like, I'm gonna get Corey, here I go, and then the team engages and Corey's just out of the fight. Like,
yeah,
talk about like just game plan red. Like, oh, you like Corey? Okay, I'll just put my diva on him.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing, like especially in youth football, right? Like when you have a guy that can run but really not play football that well.
Yeah.
What you do is like at the start of the match, you just like locate who the best player on the opponent team is, and then you just tell that guy, okay, you follow him to the bathroom if need be. Like that's your job. Just stand on him basically the entire time. Just don't
just pass the ball. Just injure this guy. Just constantly.
Just
do what you
him.
need to do.
If he gets off the pitch and had fun, you failed basically.
Yep.
And I think Bernard was sick, so like for that, I'm not sure how telegraphed that issue was, but for him to come in and then just sit on Corey, and like their power is front loaded onto Corey. It's a rather easy thing to locate who the player is that you should be covering.
Well, and there's a few teams. Would you say that there's a few teams that definitely are lean heavily on?
There are.
Yeah.
Like Toronto, great example of a team that's like, okay, but we have to deal with Surefour. But then they level change. They play dive. Okay, cool. Agility doesn't have to play main now. He can play Doomfist. He can play Genji. He can play Pharah. All heroes that are within his wheelhouse. And now he becomes a bigger threat. Not to say that Surefour depletes in any way, but now they have two threats. Justice doesn't have that gear switch yet. We need to see them adapt. And we're starting to see an integration of that on Control with Tuba. I need to see more of that. I want to see more integration of Tuba. They're probably not doing well in scrims. I think they're probably scrimming it. They're not doing well. They're relying on Stratus to try and make plays. It's just not happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
So slowly they'll get into it. There are some other teams, like I think London, if you shut down Glister, very similarly, who else is going to carry you? Because it's certainly not, what was it, Jebediah Macaroni and Cheese?
Yes, the statesman, Emmanuel Macron.
Like Jonathan McUmphrey over here just isn't great, right? Sometimes he looks good. Most of the times he's a feeder.
What I can tell you, Joe, is when he jumps off the map, he's jumping. JMac stands for jumping Mace Windu. When he lands the fat shatters on Justice, JMac stands for Justice's Mac Daddy. And when he's in the press conference crying over that win, he's sweet. And JMac stands for Jelly Macaroons. I hate them.
We had way too much fun just yelling at him in just the most random names.
Yep, that was something, huh? Well, I don't really don't know how to go a whole lot there. The only thing I did want to highlight is this entire series ended up being decided by one Glister headshot on that last fight. They go in, Justice have the point. It's coming up. I don't think it's at 99%, but it's coming up. It's
coming up real close. It's like 90, 97, somewhere in there.
They have Lucio ultimate. They've got advantage everywhere they could. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the fight hasn't even begun yet. You look up at the kill feed in the top right-hand corner. It says Glister.
Corey's dead.
Headshot icon, Corey. And Corey's
If there was
dead
ever a
and out of
player
the
you
fight.
could keep alive.
If there's one mistake you cannot make, it's to die first in a fight where you have positional advantage, ultimate advantage.
You do. That's all correct. I will say I wouldn't put this on Corey. He's sitting at like 75% health. Roar's just like looking over there for some reason when the team's obviously coming this way, putting up his shield, just looking just away from his team. And Glister just steps out, gets headshot at 75% health. He's not even topped off. No, I don't know what the supports are doing. And it just so happens there's just a stray shot. It hits him. That's the map. Done. After Roar comes in man modes, a 6-man, like that was going to be like your Eye of the Kaiser, new big earth shatter moment. You just walk at him, you shatter, you hit all 6, you save the team, and then somehow you just don't protect your star carry player.
Yep. I think this is just one of those choke things. We talk about, there's probably, right now, I would say Washington Justice have to be one of my top 3 teams on teams that could probably really ride a momentum wave and probably just find a way to just beat teams that they shouldn't beat and just come in with all swag. But this was a series that we saw them tilt super, super hard. They're in
4.31 meters.
Yep.
How does that happen? 4.31 meters.
Yeah.
It was not good. Let's just say that. So, yeah, they're just clearly, I mean, I think overall they're a really emotional team. I think that they definitely, and I think that they use that to their advantage a lot of the times, but it's not always just a good thing, right? And this is definitely one of those situations where they almost turned it around, though. To be fair, they almost came back on control and turned it around. They dropped 2 maps and one of the most decisive implosions I think that we've seen on the Overwatch League stage. And in that last map, they nearly composed themselves.
Yep.
But they didn't, and that's going to be one
London
that they're
sneaks a big win.
Yeah.
If Washington was supposed to be good, you expect them to be London. I think that says a lot.
Yep.
Oh, it's the most beautiful thing when Glister had that headshot, I was immediately hitting unmute just to listen to the silence of the fans. It was so good. You guys know I like reading, but right there, like there's the Library of Congress in Washington DC, right? That was the second biggest library in Washington in that moment as Glister threaded the needle on that shot. Amazing. It's just that's my stuff, dude.
I can't wait to go. The first thing I'm going to do is when it hits the replay reviewer later today or tomorrow. I'm going to go in. I want to see that shot because I don't think we ever got footage of that shot. I don't think we ever fully got where was the positioning, what was going on. I need that full view, and we'll definitely go in and poke around in there. Let's close out with overall thoughts on the week. Some big questions about just all the games overall. I got a few. Philadelphia Fusion are now 4-0.
Yep.
Correct? Yeah. Why am I doubting myself? 12-4 map record. Is this a team that can rightfully compete with Vancouver and San Francisco as a top 3 contender?
I was thinking about that beforehand. Vancouver still, to me, I don't know what to expect from this team. I will say that I'm not confident that they were taken to map 5 by a Gladiators team that I'm still kind of unsure about. Stylistically, if we're going to say that Toronto playing dive, might throw them off balance a little bit, this is something that Vancouver's already started doing. Stylistically, this could probably be their worst matchup. If there's probably a team that they are going to struggle to beat, it's probably going to be Vancouver rather than being the Shock. I think they could probably take Shock toe to toe. They still might not be, they might have enough to put them away, but I think that's a lot more even than them versus Vancouver. I think Vancouver is going to give them a tough run.
Yeah. What do you think, Yiska?
They're within the top 3, I'd say.
Are you buying the Philly stocks yet? Are they in
there's
your
some
top
question marks.
3? I mean, we haven't even seen Atlanta yet, who I think is another one who we really want to see. Shanghai is getting a lot of Seoul are getting a lot of nods as also being, you know, when we look at these playoff teams, we always we've talked about this when we're doing our power rankings. Even though the teams that are 1 through 6 might be very close, there's something special about saying this is a top 3 team. And it's pretty easy to go, yes, the San Francisco Shocker is a top 3 team.
Yep.
Yes, the Vancouver Titans are a top 3 team. But based on what we've seen, Joe, you're saying I can't give that 3rd spot to the Fusion yet.
No, I can. I would say Fusion's top 3. I just don't know about Vancouver. We've only seen them play twice, and they went to Game 5 against Glads, and then they beat Valiant, which is kind of a gimme.
True. I get what you're saying.
So it's like, I need to see a little bit more from them.
Yeah, I think.
And this is week 3.
I'm not sure how good NYXL actually is.
Totally.
I
don't think they're top 3 at all.
Yeah,
well, I think that's why you don't.
The strength of opponents that Philly has had is not the one that I would need to in order to confidently say that top 3.
Yep.
Namely, they haven't played against Shock, they haven't played against Atlanta, they haven't played against Seoul, and they haven't played against the Titans. Like, if they meet any of those 4 teams and it looks good for them, fair. I'll put them in there. Until then, we'll see.
Totally.
Fair enough.
I think in a whole, as a projection, you know, if Atlanta's going to be as good as we think they are, if Seoul, you know, which they should be. Yeah, I would agree. But as it stands right now, I'd say top 3, at least. If not, probably arguably the best.
Fair enough. All right, next one. Houston Outlaws have won just 2 maps in their first 4 matches. Ooh, if you're someone who bought those Houston stocks in the offseason, are you selling them now, Yiska?
I'd probably wait till Hero Pools, but because how much further can stocks really drop at this point? They are quite clearly the worst team in the Overwatch League right now. By virtue of losing against the other 2 worst teams. I think they can only go up from here. I don't know what I honestly don't have any answers to what's happening. I think that team definitely could largely benefit. Like, just imagine Sharp being a starter for them. Right? I think that those series go very differently in that case. So, I want to see their homestand. If they suck there, then they are actually the one and only cheek in the Overwatch League. We don't have 3. We only got 1.
So you're saying they're drafting Owen from the waiver list, Mr. Owen 7? Think they're going? Yeah, it's tough. Like, to Yiska's point, there's no good reason why they're doing this poorly. It seems to be a mental thing, and I don't think their mentals are intact from being ill and be traveling. I don't know if anybody in chat's ever done that, but it's not fun. It's not fun. It's pretty rough. So once that excuse has kind of left them, they get to play at home. You're at least remotely healthy. You have a lot of practice time. You're in a comfort zone. You should be able to perform. You've got Toronto to face, and you've got London. Again, not easy matchups by any means, but not unwinnable, right?
Yep.
Unlikely that you'll win, but if now is a time to perform and rebuild the stock prices, it's now, and it's through aggression. So let's see it. I need to see it.
So Houston do have kind of an interesting thing where they have their homestand, and then they have 1 game in Washington again in week 5, and then they have week 6, 7, 8, and 9 off.
Yes.
They have 4 weeks off in which Hero Pools will have just happened. So their last week to play is March 7th. So they're going to have one game of Hero
On
Pool.
Hero Pools. Yeah.
And then they're going to have 4 weeks to just kind of watch and figure that out. Relax. Assume that a lot of teams aren't going to be playing their best as they figure that out. And they can come back and hopefully play their best after that. So I honestly think that I won't know how I feel about Houston until after that 4-week break.
Yeah, 4 weeks can change a lot.
Yeah. Also, of course, assuming that the league doesn't say, okay, we're throwing around everyone's schedule in order of, no, that doesn't make sense because of homestands. Okay, no, never mind. And visas. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think this is actually saving grace for them then. Yep. Like we saw Valiant turn around the season around the same amount of games. Of course, failing to make the playoffs, sadly. Play-ins, yeah. So they'd need an equal turnaround, and I think it's a lot harder to be as consistent as Valiant or as explosively improving as Valiant was in Hero Pools, because you cannot, go towards I think win rates generally for everyone will be more diverging to the mean, and that might put a stop to a campaign like that, but we will see.
Yeah,
totally.
And they do.
I will say,
yeah, go ahead.
One last thing with Houston. If we're going to talk about, gear shifting and playing more compositions, they kind of have played all very similar kind of standard maps where you're forced to play the hit scan. I hope that when we see Horizon Lunar Colony, when we see Temple, we see Dorado, we see these dive maps that people are experimenting with dive, I hope Houston can bring that out, because I think they're a team that would benefit from it a lot and see a lot of success with it, because Blase, let's face it, not the best McCree.
Yep. That's definitely, I think, been one of the most visible parts of their weaknesses. I don't want to overplay it all, but we see so much spectator time on McCree as well, so it's really easy to see when a McCree is not hitting shots or not getting angles to where it seems like all they can shoot at is shields all day. Like, there's definite a microscope on Blase for that, but still, it's it would probably benefit them to not have to deal with that every match. But on that note, we do got to get out of here. We had a couple other questions, but I think we kind of answered them as we kind of discussed the matches. So big thank you to everybody who hung out with us this week. And I do apologize. I forgot my list for new patrons and 5-star reviews. So we will thank you on Wednesday. Apologies on that, but a big thank you to our patron producers: Battlecrab Made, Pin, Lulshin, Charlie L, Audio Compass, Pork Chop, Sammy. Y'all are the best. If you like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. We did our game night on Friday. It was a ton of fun. A lot of Houston Outlaw jokes. A lot of Houston Outlaw jokes. But ton of fun. Come hang out, play games with us. Hang out with us in our Discord. Also, if you haven't been paying attention, Race the Mayhem has been going on, and we do have some cool merch at bit.ly/Race the Mayhem. We got some shirts, we got some stickers, and we're all doing things to make healthy decisions. You can definitely join.
I don't want to, put it on the Mayhem, but I'm kind of a win ahead right now, so they better catch up soon. They want to win this.
I think they might. I just think that they end up might. Who do they play next? They play. Oh, actually, maybe not next week. They play NYXL and London. London will be an interesting one.
Here's a teaser for next show. That first match is going to be a lot closer than people think.
Let's see. What's the first match?
New York, Florida.
NYXL Florida.
Yeah,
New York, Toronto, Florida, right? Oh, sorry. I'm dumb.
No. New York, Florida, open Saturday, and I think that's going to be a lot closer than people expect. People are like, oh, it's NYXL, they're going to easily win. Tune in Wednesday.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, man. We'll see. I agree it might be closer, but I all right, we're not going there.
We'll talk Wednesday.
We will. Don't miss our preview episode on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. You can find me everywhere at KickedTripod, Joe at Volamel, Yiska at Yiska out. Joe, you got anything coming up this week?
Articles as usual. I think my opinion on the new Contenders broadcast changes should be going live relatively soon. Check that out. At some point this week, I plan on doing an analysis of somebody. I don't know who yet, but there'll be an extra video on YouTube. And then this weekend, history time. So stay tuned.
Yiska, as for you?
Yeah, I think we can, I'll soon start the content mill. It shouldn't take much longer. Maybe we'll just make it flush, and then you can pretty much expect something daily from me.
Nice.
We'll see.
Sweet. As for me, just doing the shows, not streaming a whole lot these days. My computer is dying. Graphics card's on its last legs. I can't really stream anything. I can barely stream Jackbox games anymore. So, we are still streaming the show, though. And that'll keep coming. All right, guys. We're out of here. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you shortly after for the post show.